BMW may not have invented the idea of a premium four-door executive coupe, but it could certainly be argued that they perfected it with this car, the 6 Series Gran Coupe. Elegant, beautifully finished and impressively efficient, it's one of the key choices on offer if you need something dynamically luxurious with 4 seats but have outgrown a full-sized executive saloon and don't want anything limo-like. This improved version's cleverer, cleaner and smarter, but is it still a class leader?
So you want a luxury saloon. The thing is though, you don't want a boring one. One day perhaps the time might be right for you to get something like a BMW 7 Series, a Mercedes S-Class or an Audi A8. For now though, you'd like something just as smart and luxurious but more individual and dynamic. Something perhaps like this, BMW's much improved 6 Series Gran Coupe. This Gran Coupe is a lengthened 4-door version of BMW's more conventional 2-door 6 Series Coupe and was first announced in 2012 to plug an important gap in the Munich maker's luxury lineup. Buyers who'd outgrown the brand's 5 Series executive saloon and didn't want to go into something limo-like were being lost to a new breed of more style-conscious luxury segment models. Cars like Mercedes CLS Class, Audi's A7 Sportback and Porsche's Panamera. The Bavarians had to do something. This was it. For some, a stylised saloon. For others, a coupe with a little extra versatility. Whatever the perspective, buyers seemed enthused, and this Gran Coupe soon became the most popular 6 Series body style, quickly accounting for over half of 6 Series sales. The range gained this powerful M6 flagship variant shortly after launch and was even joined by a smaller stablemate, the 4 Series Gran Coupe, in mid-2014. By early 2015, though, this 6 was facing tougher competition from rejuvenated versions of all its main rivals. Hence the need for this improved model with its smarter looks, greater luxury, extra technology and improved efficiency. Can it keep its brand competitive in this small but very profitable segment? And if it can, is a large sporting 4-door coupe of this kind going to be the perfect way for you to reward yourself for a lifetime of endeavour? Time to find out. So, how does the 6 Series Gran Coupe drive? BMW engineers reckon that the longer wheelbase makes it more stable, but I think you'd really have to be on a test track to really notice any difference between this car and its coupe stablemate. So yes, that car feels exactly like this one. Quite a compliment given that the existing second generation 6 Series 2-door model is pretty good to drive, provided you don't expect it to be an out-and-out sports car. That BMW doesn't really shrink around you, and neither does this one. Hardly surprising perhaps, given that it's over 5 metres long, something you're reminded of every time you glance in the rear-view mirror and realise just how far away the back window is. If it wasn't for this, then you could probably kid yourself that you were in the 2-door coupe, for though the centre console has been reconfigured, the basic dash layout is otherwise very similar, with much the same cosy, rather intimate feel up front and an agreeably low-slung driving position. And under the bonnet, well, almost all sales are of the 3-litre twin-power turbo models, with over 80% of customers opting for the 640D variant. This gets a straight 6-cylinder turbo diesel, a likeable engine that in our experience is refined at idling, yet which delivers a deep, purposeful roar at speed and strong reserves of pulling power, a potent 630 newton meters of torque from only 1500 revs per minute. The result is a power plant a bit like the kind of gorgeously lazy petrol V8 you'd find under the bonnet of, say, a Mustang or a Camaro. The traditional measures of performance reveal impressive stats too. The 640D will get to 16 miles an hour from rest in 5.4 seconds, and like every variant in the range, is artificially limited to a 155 miles per hour maximum. That means an identical set of speed figures to those you get in the petrol 3-litre 6-cylinder variant, but a rather different driving experience. The petrol 640i variant features a sports exhaust system with a switchable valve that adds a more intense timbre to the engine soundtrack, involving you more deeply in the whole dynamic experience. to the point where you might often be tempted to take control of the standard ZF 8-speed automatic transmission yourself, setting the thing into manual mode and using the steering wheel mounted paddles in order to try and wring the most performance out of it. In the diesel, things are much more laid back, and there's so much torque available that you'll mostly end up leaving the gearbox to its own devices. After all, the engine always has plenty in reserve. Today I'm trying the ultimate 6 Series Gran Coupe model, the 560 brake horsepower M6. Under its bonnet beats the same twin-power turbo 4.4 litre V8 used in the lesser 450 brake horsepower 650i model, but in this case the sprint to 62 miles an hour time is reduced from the 4.6 figures managed in that car to just 4.2 seconds here. M6 buyers can even go fractionally faster than that if they specify the optional competition package power upgrade that includes extra sport tuning for the steering, the exhaust and the suspension, and ups power to 600 brake horsepower, while torque rises from 680 to 700 newton meters. On an M6, you can decide how best to use all this power via buttons around the gear stick that enable you to tweak suspension, throttle and steering feel, along with gear shift timings. A simpler version of this setup, the Drive Performance Control System, is also used in mainstream models. Here, a rocker switch by the gear stick enables you to tweak those same elements: steering, throttle, stability control settings and gear shift timings via 4 settings, with the 2 most relaxed ones being the ones that you use most frequently: Comfort for laid-back use, or Eco Pro to optimise clean frugality. When the road does open up, then it's time to click into Sport, or if you're feeling really confident, the most extreme Sport Plus setting. If at this point you're tempted to start throwing your 6 Series Gran Coupe around, then a few issues begin to present themselves. For a start, with such a low driving position in such a huge car, it can be quite difficult to get a sense of this BMW's exact proportions, which can make placement on narrow lanes a little difficult until you get familiar with where the rounded edges begin and end. And it doesn't help that, on top of that, the electric power steering is just as vague and uncommunicative as it is on most of the Munich maker's other luxury models. Complain about that to your dealer and you will be gently pointed towards the extra cost integral active steering option, essentially a 4-wheel steering setup for extra agility and response. It makes a difference, but it's a pity you have to go to such expensive extremes to do it. The same comment applies to the handling. It's certainly a little more stable than it is in the coupe, thanks to this car's longer wheelbase, but it still doesn't really reward unless you spend a small fortune on equipping your car with the optional adaptive drive system. Here you have a clever combination of adaptive damping, so you can use the Drive Performance Control mode to set the suspension response up for the mood you're in and the road you're on. Anything from pillowy soft to frantically firm. And active anti-roll stability management, which counters body roll with sensor-driven motors in the front and rear anti-roll bars, so the pitch through the bends is enormously reduced to almost eerie levels. Yes, it's a costly extra package to have to fund, but the payoff from it is a car with a dynamic repertoire superior to that of any other rival in the segment. Not all recent BMW designs have been really elegant, but you might well feel that this one is. Here we have an executive saloon on a casual dress-down day, a car with all the proportions of a classic Grand Touring coupe, yet most of the spaciousness you'll find in a luxury 4-door. In top M6 guise, it can be a potent sports saloon too, with dynamic potential visually emphasised by this carbon fibre reinforced plastic roof. From the front, you might mistake any Gran Coupe 6 Series model for one of the conventional 2-door variety. But moving to the side, and you notice not only the extra doors, but the fact that this is a much bigger car. The 130mm hike in the wheelbase, taking the length of this design over the 5-metre barrier that marks out really long cars from the rest. Familiar styling features common to other models from the Munich marque include what the brand calls a shark nose, characterised by the usual large, forward-leaning, double-kidney front grille. With this revised model, this features fewer bars, 9 rather than the previous 10, to improve cooling, and is flanked by now standard full LED headlights that sit above LED fog lights. From here, a long flat bonnet leads upwards through the front windscreen pillars into a roofline that's still sweeping and coupe-like thanks to the wheelbase increase. A move to the side gives you a better perspective on that profile and its extra length. Smarter wheels and restyled mirrors with slim indicator strips provide the tinsel, whilst frameless aluminium doors house long side windows intended to emphasise the space within. Perhaps the most distinctive touch is this C-pillar Hofmeister kink, which here features a revised black-painted aluminium side window surround with raised Gran Coupe lettering. Move past the bulging wheel arch to the rear, and a smart horizontal chrome bumper insert aims to make the car look wider, whilst all models get larger chrome tailpipe embellishers for a more potent look. On this top M6 variant, these are finished in black chrome and flank a lightweight carbon diffuser. Time to take a seat at the wheel, where the 6 Series Coupe cabin delivers a subtle difference to the feel you get in the brand's more conventional 5 and 7 Series saloons. You sit lower for a start, and there's more of a cockpit-like ambience, thanks to the way that the dash curves around you. The seats are from the conventional coupe too, which means that they come with integral seat-mounted belts, another sporting touch. It's very luxurious too. This leather-trimmed dashboard with its lovely contrast stitching now standard on all models. I love this picked-out seam that runs across the leading edge of the glove box and then takes a turn south past the iDrive controller and then back onto the driver's side of the centre console. It's beautiful. As usual with BMW, everything is very driver-orientated, with the automatic gear selector, the electronic handbrake and the iDrive infotainment controller all falling easily to hand, mounted on a centre console that runs through to the rear of the cabin. And it all works so well. The main dials in particular are a model of clarity. This M6 variant delivers classic red needle conventional analogue dials, but mainstream variants adopt TFT virtual technology. Both approaches work well. In terms of day-to-day functionality, I particularly like the easy access to climate and stereo controls that doesn't require you having to root around in sub-menus on an infotainment touchscreen. You don't get one of those here, and you don't need it, because BMW's iDrive system now works so effectively, even if its 10.2-inch colour screen isn't quite as well integrated into the dash as, say, you'll find with the Audi MMI setup. There's a lot on here, from maintenance schedules and visual handbook representations to the many varied and mainly optional functions that make up the Munich brand's connected drive system. And it's all very easy to find via the large rotary controller. So, what's this Gran Coupe model like in the rear? Is it actually anything like as spacious here as it would be in a 5 or 7 Series saloon? Initially you might wonder. Getting your Gran into the back of a Gran Coupe might present a few difficulties, thanks to the small door apertures, the trailing edge of the frameless window, the low roofline and the heavily curved door sills. This seat back side button could make the process simpler though, electrically gliding the front chair forward to offer an illusion of copious rear legroom that'll make entry and exit easier, particularly for older folk. But this might lead to disappointment when front seat passengers take their places ahead. To be fair, once you do get inside, it's very comfortable. That extra wheelbase increase doing just enough to make this car a realistic long-distance conveyance for 2 fully sized rear-seated adults. Or at least it will be, provided first that they're not over 6 feet tall, blame that sweeping roofline, and second that the front seats haven't been positioned in their lowest possible setting, in which case there'll be very little room for their feet. You might notice that I've only talked about room for 2 people, and that's because you'll really only want to carry 2 people. It's true that if you raise this neat leather-stitched central armrest with its useful lidded compartment and fold-out cup holders, you'll discover that BMW has, rather ambitiously, provided 3 belts in the rear. As you can see, though, because this centre console extends right back to the edge of the seat base, any middle-seated occupant would have to position themselves uncomfortably with their legs astride it. On a journey of any length, that's a requirement that would surely test friendships to the limit. The flip side of that coin is the way that, as in the front, you get a very coupe-like feel, and an agreeably luxurious one too, especially in this top M6 version with its leather-stitched roof panel and built-in ceiling-mounted reading lights. The optional electric side and rear sunblinds add an exclusive touch too. Finally, a word about luggage space. Like a rival Mercedes CLS or Maserati Quattroporte, but unlike this model's two other key competitors, the 5-door hatchback Porsche Panamera and Audi A7 Sportback models, this BMW's notchback shape features a proper boot. Raise the trunk lid and you'll find a loading volume of 460 litres on offer here. That's slightly more than a Panamera, but less than that of an A7 or a CLS. There's a high loading lip over which you've to lift your stuff, but that has at least allowed the addition of a useful net just inside the leading loading edge so you can keep small items in one place. Larger objects like skis can be dealt with by a through-loading hatch. If you need more room, then releasing these neat boot sidewall catches flattens the rear seat backs, a standard feature that can free up as much as 1,265 litres of total space. Whether you choose this 4-door 6 Series Gran Coupe or the standard 2-door 6 Series Coupe, you'll be paying the same, at least for mainstream models. That sees pricing in the £60,000 to £75,000 bracket once you've allowed for a few well-chosen extras. To give you some BMW range perspective, this means that buyers of this car will be paying around £20,000 more than they'd have to find for a comparably powerful version of the smaller 4 Series Gran Coupe, and around £10,000 more than they'd have to find for an equivalent version of the car that BMW once hoped would properly represent it in this market segment, the stylised but rather ungainly 5 Series Gran Turismo 5-door model. Perhaps more relevant is the news that 6 Series Gran Coupe pricing will bring a potential customer within £3,000 or so of the kind of money they'd be paying for the Munich maker's largest luxury model, the 7 Series Saloon. A small but carefully fashioned market niche then, although price-wise you'll have to stretch above it if you want to go beyond the mainstream and get yourself the supercar-style performance of the top 560 brake horsepower M6 Gran Coupe flagship model that we're trying here. You'll need around £95,000 for one of these. If you can't quite stretch to that, then a budget of around £70,000 will get you the next best thing, the equally rare 650i, which offers an only slightly detuned 450 brake horsepower version of this M6's 4.4-litre V8 bi-turbo petrol power plant. Most buyers, though, will have the kind of £60,000 to £65,000 budget that will net them one of the more accessible 3-litre 6 Series Gran Coupe variants. The entry-level 320 brake horsepower 640i petrol derivative is the most affordable of these, but the majority of potential customers usually opt to find the premium of around £2,900 that BMW asked for the 313 brake horsepower 640d diesel. Take all of these figures and then look at the value proposition they deliver, and you can see why this 6 Series Gran Coupe range has proved to be a useful seller for the brand. The closest car in concept to this one is Mercedes CLS class, but that sells only with much feebler diesel power in mainstream form, so it's difficult to compare with directly. An Audi A7 Sportback is a closer match and offers the advantages of 4-wheel drive and greater 5-door practicality, along with a model-for-model saving of around 10%. It costs more to run, though, and perhaps more importantly, it certainly doesn't have the driveway presence of a Gran Coupe, this in a segment where looks are everything. In fact, if you want more imposing tarmac trinketry than this 6 Series can offer in this little market niche, you'll have to pay more for it. So, for example, if you were to buy a lower-order petrol or diesel version of Porsche's 5-door Panamera, you'd probably be needing close to £70,000 once you'd equip the car to match an equivalent version of this BMW. Buy a 3-litre petrol or diesel version of Maserati's Quattroporte, the segment's only other really direct rival, and you'd need to expect that figure to increase to around £75,000 to £80,000. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a 6 Series Gran Coupe that you really want, then you're going to need to know exactly how generous BMW has been with the standard specification. And the answer to that is that just about everything you'll need has made the standard spec sheet. This means that even base SE variants get alloy wheels of at least 18 inches in size, BMW Icon full LED headlights with power washers, LED front fog lights, auto headlamps and wipers, and park distance control parking sensors front and rear. Petrol models also get a sports-tuned exhaust with switchable valves, so you can alter the tailpipe melody. Inside, a luxurious feel is delivered by electrically adjustable heated seats that feature Dakota leather trim, now extending to the dashboard, complete with lovely contrasting stitching. Plus, all variants get 2-zone air conditioning, illuminated door entry sills, cruise control and a sport multifunction leather steering wheel with paddle shifters for the standard 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. The change timings for that gearbox can be tweaked via a standard drive performance control system that also alters throttle and steering response to suit the way that you want to drive. In addition, as usual in a top BMW of this kind, you also get an iDrive infotainment setup via which you can Bluetooth link your phone, access a DAB tuner and a 20GB hard disk, and operate a BMW professional navigation system. The 10.2-inch iDrive screen is also the interface through which you'll access the now standard Connected Drive connectivity package. This includes a SIM card embedded within the car for a range of so-called concierge services that will connect you through to the outside world. These can be tailored to your preferences and include helpful features like real-time traffic information and BMW online services that give you access to a whole range of useful apps. There's also a BMW teleservices system that can remotely monitor the state of your car, book services, and even remotely fix any electronic malfunctions. You might need more personal help too. If so, the concierge system can do things like reserve hotel rooms, check flight information, and help you find things like ATM machines and out-of-hours pharmacies. Plus, there are various remote services that, via the information centre or your smartphone, allow you to do things like remotely lock or unlock your car, find it if you forget where you've parked it, remotely flash your headlights, or use Google's local search system. So you've got the idea. The standard equipment tally is very complete, but then it should be for the money being asked here. As a buyer, though, we're guessing that you'll want to go further, primarily in considering the fact that this is a car that you'll need to dress if it's to fully impress. Hence the substantial take-up amongst potential buyers of racy M Sport trim, a spec that demands a hefty £3,600 premium if you're upgrading from SE spec. This adds M aerodynamic body styling, larger 19-inch M double-spoke alloy wheels and dark chrome exhaust tailpipes. Inside, the package adds more supportive sport seats and a thick, grippy M Sport steering wheel. It's fairly straightforward then to get the aesthetics of this car looking sharp. Make sure, though, that you put equal effort into ensuring that the driving experience is equally carefully tailored. One option is the integral active steering, a setup that not everyone gets on with, but a system well worth trying if you really like more direct feedback through the turns. The main route, though, to creating a real driver's car out of this 6 Series Gran Coupe model is to tick the box for a costly but very clever adaptive drive package that gives you two key features. The first is active anti-roll stability management, which counters body roll with sensor-driven motors in the front and rear anti-roll bars so that pitch through the bends is enormously reduced. Secondly, there's dynamic damper control. This works through the same four EcoPro, Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus modes of the DPC drive performance control system that I mentioned earlier, but it adds a key element of extra functionality, namely the ability to also alter suspension feel to suit the road you're on and the mood that you're in. Once all the ride and handling features are sorted out to your satisfaction, there's plenty of more conventional optional kit on offer if you do have a little extra in your budget. This car gets the desirable Harman Kardon surround sound stereo system, though if it were mine, I'd have been tempted to go further and trade up to the full house 16-speaker 1200-watt premium Bang & Olufsen setup, and maybe embellish this with the online entertainment and internet access options that you can add to the iDrive system. We'd also perhaps look at the adaptive LED headlights that turn with the bends, the BMW night vision with pedestrian warning system, borrowed from the military so you can see in the dark, and a surround view camera setup to give you a wider field of vision when coming out of junctions. Not surprisingly, this last feature helps with parking too, something that can also be simplified with a park assist system that'll help identify spaces and then steer you into them. You could also pair that with an optional reversing assist camera. Fit all this lot and you really will be doing well to get a parking scrape. Other key options include a through-loading ski bag, soft closed doors, sun protection glass, sun blinds for the rear screen and side windows, and a head-up display that projects key information onto the bottom of the windscreen. I would also want what BMW calls comfort access, which allows you to open the doors and start the engine whilst keeping the key in your pocket. Inside, if you don't want the really high-end option of getting a fully bespoke BMW individual interior, you can substantially lift the cabin ambiance with a bit of careful box ticking. Wood trim using ash, poplar or sycamore is one of the ways you could go. Many, though, will feel that modern finishing, say in high gloss or piano black trim, better suits this car's technical appeal. And of course, you could add in a few fashionable niceties too. Things like an electric glass sunroof, a heated steering wheel, seat heating for the rear, and larger 19 or 20-inch wheels. Safety-wise, there are the usual twin front side and curtain airbags, plus all kinds of electronic systems, such as switchable DSC, dynamic stability control, backed up by a DTC, dynamic traction control setup, to keep you on the straight and narrow. Plus, as you would expect, there's a hill start assistant to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. There's loads of braking cleverness too, that'll stop you sharply even if your car isn't fitted with the massively expensive ceramic brakes fitted as an option to the model we have here. Across the range, the ABS system is aided by DBC, dynamic brake control, and CBC, cornering brake control. And there's also a brake drying function to ensure that, even in the wet, your anchors react in an instant. You also get something BMW calls brake standby, that detects when your foot comes rapidly off the throttle and knows that you're about to stamp on the brakes. Having sensed this, the system responds in a fraction of a second by moving the brake pads closer to the discs, and the result is braking response that's so instantaneous that it could easily make the difference between a near miss and a really bad day. Other standard safety stuff includes a tyre puncture warning system and ISOFIX child seat fastenings, but my favourite feature is the standard BMW emergency call setup that comes as a standard part of that connected drive system I was telling you about earlier. This will automatically summon help in an accident, alerting the emergency service to your exact GPS location. Could be a lifesaver. On to extra cost safety features. The key option is what BMW calls its driving assistant pack, which includes 6 key electronic camera-based features. These include forward collision warning to tell you if you're getting too close to a car in front, a high beam assistant that automatically dips your headlights for you at night in the face of oncoming traffic, a preventative pedestrian protection feature that warns you if someone's about to step off the pavement in front of you, a speed limit information setup that pictures road signs as you pass them and displays them on the dash, a lane departure warning system to stop dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway, and perhaps most importantly, a city collision mitigation system that at urban speeds scans the road ahead as you drive, looking for accident hazards. If one is detected, then you'll be warned. If you don't respond or aren't able to, then the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. You can further add to this package too. The Driving Assistant Plus pack includes everything I've just mentioned, plus 2 further features. A congestion assistant will control the speed of the car and the distance to the vehicle ahead in dense traffic or on motorways at speeds of up to 37 miles an hour. Autonomous control at higher speeds, meanwhile, is dealt with by camera-based cruise control, featuring a stop-and-go function. This not only constantly keeps you a safe distance behind the car in front at a motorway cruise, but also, if you come across a tailback, can even slow you to a stop and start you off again. A 6 Series Gran Coupe weighs between 70 and 90 kilograms more than the standard two-door coupe model it's based upon, but that extra bulk seemed to have made very little difference to this car's running cost figures. These are pretty astonishing for something weighing 1.85 tonnes, especially given that here we're talking about a 5-metre long car with at least around 320 brake horsepower beneath the bonnet. This revised model builds further on its predecessor's strong showing thanks to better aerodynamics, along with a twin-power turbo inline 6-cylinder and V8 engine range that features the full gamut of BMW efficient dynamics technology to save fuel and reduce emissions. As a result, even the petrol 640i model returns 37.2 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 178 grams per kilometre of CO2. Of course, that's nowhere near as good as the variant that most buyers choose, the diesel 640D. This diesel carries an extra 40 kilos of weight in comparison to its 3-litre petrol counterpart. Even so, it delivers 51.4 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 147 grams per kilometre of carbon dioxide. Now, just think about that for a moment. A car of this size and power getting what would have been a creditable economy figure for a Super Mini not so very long ago. Perhaps more importantly, these are figures that virtually match those of a potentially comparable Mercedes CLS 350 BlueTech diesel, a car with 55 PS less beneath the bonnet. Small wonder that BMW's engine technology is still widely perceived to be cutting edge in this segment. You will need deeper pockets, of course, to run one of the 4.4-litre twin-power turbo petrol V8 models. The 450 brake horsepower 650i manages 32.1 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 206 grams per kilometre of CO2, while this 560 brake horsepower M6 model delivers 28.5 miles per gallon and 231 grams per kilometre. In both cases, though, you'll do a lot better than you would if you opted instead for a directly comparable Porsche Panamera or Maserati Quattroporte. All of the Gran Coupe figures I've quoted you assume that you've engaged the Eco Pro driving mode that adapts the engine management, the accelerator response and the gear shift change points to support a fuel-efficient driving style, and even programs the climate control and heated seats and mirrors for the most efficient use of energy. In conjunction with the sat-nav system, the Eco Pro setting can, through a proactive driving assistant function, even advise the driver to ease off the accelerator when approaching corners or lower speed limit areas. On top of that, of course, you've got a whole raft of integrated BMW efficient dynamics technologies to explain why all this car's running cost numbers are so darn good. Do I need to be specific? Well, all the engines are, of course, Euro 6 emissions compatible, and the diesel uses a combination of an NOx nitrogen oxide absorber catalyst, a selective catalytic reduction, and a clever AdBlue urea injection system that turns the vast majority of NOx in the exhaust system into harmless nitrogen and water. On top of all this, there are more familiar efficient dynamics features like electromechanical power steering, brake energy regeneration, on-demand control of engine ancillary components, low rolling resistance tyres and an auto stop-start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, either stuck at the lights or waiting in traffic. Plus, there is a coasting function that works by disengaging the clutch every time you lift off the throttle at cruising speeds to allow the car to coast unencumbered by engine braking. And servicing? Well, as usual with BMW, there's a condition-based service indicator and various servicing-related screen features accessible via the iDrive setup. New to me, though, was the clever teleservices feature that comes as part of that iDrive system's BMW Connected Drive services package. Via this, before each service appointment is due, your 6 Series will put in a teleservices call to your nominated BMW service centre, complete with detailed information on vehicle condition. You'll then get a call to arrange a service appointment, something you'll already have budgeted for if, at the original point of purchase, you opted for one of the 2 fixed cost service inclusive or service inclusive plus packages, which cover you for 5 years or 50,000 miles. The basic inclusive option will set you back less than £500, which, for reference, is less than you'd pay for one single service on a rival Maserati Quattroporte. What else? We should talk about residual values. Whatever BMW wants to call this car, the trade will see it as a large luxury saloon, a class of car that usually tends to quite heavily depreciate. A 640D Gran Coupe model, though, is reckoned by independent industry experts to retain around 50.1% of its new value after 3 years and 30,000 miles, although that figure does fall a bit if you choose one of the petrol models. Residuals, of course, will take a huge hit if you specify too many options, so be careful at the outset with your box ticking. Finally, on all models, expect to find your insurance rated at Group 50. Of all the motivations you might have for spending serious money on a full-size luxury car, perhaps the most important is the need for it to make you feel special. And that's exactly how you'll feel with one of these in your driveway. It's what sets this executive 4-door coupe apart from the kind of BMW 7 Series saloon you could have had for much the same sort of money. And it's also what makes this a rarer, more exclusive choice than a rival Mercedes CLS or Audi A7, and a more beautifully resolved design than the only other 2 really direct alternatives, Porsche's Panamera and Maserati's Quattroporte. Hence this car's strong sales showing in this small but profitable luxury segment. Success that should be built upon by the thoughtful package of changes that have made it smarter, more efficient and better connected. Originally, you had to spend a lot extra to get a feeling of real luxury and cutting-edge connectivity with this car. With this revised version, though, both those things can now be taken for granted across the range, as can impressively improved levels of efficiency. True, you do still need to spend plenty on the options list to create the ultimate driving machine that the Munich makers ads promise. Do this, though, and you'll get yourself a car with dynamic capability no rival can match. This top M6 version is the ultimate expression of that, and as such, is very desirable indeed. So, in summary, is this the best luxury model BMW make right now? There are many who would say so. And the best 4-door premium coupe? Yes, that as well.